Hey guys, welcome back to the homestead. Today I'm going to talk to you about my garden plans a little bit. It's another cold, kind of dreary day outside, and I'm not going to be doing a ton of work outside this week. I'll be doing a little bit and showing you guys some of our pig fencing. Hey guys, normally I don't do this, but I don't have any equipment out here with me. We just came out. Oh, I do have equipment. I have a zapper because the pigs broke into my goat pen and they have completely torn up everything. The grass, all of it's torn up. It's a mess. So what we're gonna do, two things. First, we gotta get the pigs back into where they belong. Should be able to pretty easily do that with getting Denise, our piggy mama, back through, but she doesn't always like to work with us, which is why I have the prod. She will go and will move if I prod her. Oh, there are so many holes. This is my goat's pasture. As you can see, they're following me, and there are holes all over it. The pigs have rooted up so much, which a piece of me is like, I don't mind it because we can just reseed, but right now I'm like, ugh. Okay, so we're gonna set up electric using poles. Let me show you what we're going to use. These little knobbies and these plastic poles, they all come from Premier One. This isn't a how-to, but this is what we're going to do, and I'll show you the finished result when we're done. This is it. Again, I apologize. I do not have any camera equipment. It's very simple, but all it does is it's two lines low down to make it so that the pigs will not go past this point. That is my goat pasture that I don't want dug up. And this is the pig pasture that I don't care if they dig up. So I just put the line out here. There's a bunch of totes here which go along this fence. And so, yeah, so I just ran it. I had line that was back there. Josie, can you move so I can show them the line? There's line that runs on that back fence back there for these guys because it's not as tall as a goat fence should be. But they don't like the line, so they don't mess with it. And so I just ran it further down and around in a loop, and yeah, it'll just go. You guys were there. If you saw my previous video putting the goat fence up, you saw that. So yeah, so that's where we're at. Okay, well, it's done. So now that's all that's left to do is to get the pigs to touch it. And I know that sounds silly, but we do try and make sure it's working and that they understand what it is. And they will. A couple of days and they should not be doing anything. So anyway, all right. Exciting adventures with the pigs. Well, that was fast. A pig just touched it. Immediately came over to see what we were doing, you know? And that's just the beauty of having pigs. That's what they do. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this short little clip in the middle of my potato video. I plant potatoes every single year. Last year I planted them in a new spot, and it turns out the soil was just not okay. We ended up with soil that was more clay than I thought. We had run some animals on the soil and I thought we'd gotten it kind of fixed. Yeah, well, we hadn't. It's one of the things about where we live. We have a lot of clay, and it's funny because our neighbors not that far away have a lot of sand. So with between the two extremes in soil, ours ended up with the clay. I sometimes don't even know what to do with it. Now, there are things that you can do to help improve your soil and build it, but what I have found for me personally right now is raised beds is the way to go, or any sort of vertical gardening. Right now I'm using old apple bins as one of my types of raised beds, and my goal this year is just to really work in my garden on those beds, not do anything huge or crazy. I just don't know how it's gonna go. So I started some plants in milk jugs, did what is called winter sowing. If you wanna look that up, there's many people who do that, and I would even say it's not too late this week to start. Anything in your garden that you can get started earlier just helps with how long it takes to grow something. Because I also direct seed, which is when I put the seeds in the ground versus starting them early. Direct seeding happens after frost. Any sowing early just helps me with that timeline. So if something takes 90 days, then I'm just cutting that much time off the front by starting it early. even if it is a little bit later than when most people would start. But like I said, I want to talk to you about potatoes today. So I get potatoes by the pound from my local Amish feed store. It's always an adventure going to the local Amish feed store. I always know roughly what I'm gonna get, but then sometimes I walk in and I'm like, oh, surprise, they have seed potatoes. As you can see, I've already done part of a tray here, and I am actually cutting them apart. Some years I am lazy and I do not bother cutting them apart, and they still grow potatoes. I always get a potato harvest every year, no matter if I am on top of really maintaining the potatoes or if I take a very relaxed approach to it. That's why I love potatoes so much. It's a very relaxed crop, but when you get it in the ground and you go and you just hill it up, whatever happens, happens at that point. So let's start with how I'm cutting them apart. Let me find one that's really obvious and good to show you. I like this one. So what I'm doing is I'm just finding 4 eyes. And as you can see here, there's 4 eyes. This one's really close to the edge. I wasn't thrilled about this one as much. And I just cut them. Most of them I'm cutting in half. A couple of them I had to cut kind of wonky, like this one, just to get the correct number of eyes on each side. This one, again, I just cut it in half. It was really simple. And you can see, whole potato, half potato. This wasn't 2 ends, but you can tell it's smaller, bigger. I've left them in these bags, and what it's allowed it to do is it's allowed them to sprout. And sprouting, this has nice lots of dirt on it. The sprouting lets me better see where the eyes are. Now you can see where they are, kind of where the indents and everything. You can see like this is an eye and this is an eye. But if they sprout before I get them in the ground, again, we're just taking time off of that overall timeline for how long things take. I'm showing you how I do this and my thoughts. Everyone does it differently, but this is how I do it. I will be doing these in raised beds most likely again this year. This will depend though on if I get my rototiller fixed. If I can get my rototiller fixed, I may try and go ahead and do them in the ground and then hill them with straw or spent hay, just so that I don't have to really dig down deep to find the potatoes at the end of the year. That's my biggest issue with clay, is that they just don't grow well because everything's all compacted together, and so you get some potatoes but not a lot of good big potatoes. For cutting my seed potatoes, now these are seed potatoes. You can technically use any potato. Let me show you. This is a bag of potatoes that we got from the store. If you look, you can see that this potato is starting to sprout. And I have successfully grown potatoes by planting these potatoes from the store in the ground. However, I find the seed potatoes grow better because they don't go through the process of what it takes to get to the store. You can tell this one is very dirty and is leaving plenty of dirt on my hands. This one has been cleaned, washed, stored in a cooler, all the things. It's just not the same. You will, though, get a harvest if you plant potatoes like this in the ground too. Usually I wait till they sprout if I'm going to do that, because then you can take sprouted potatoes instead and put them in the ground and be sure that they're going to grow, instead of just a potato that has eyes on it and little sprouts like this. It just depends what you want to do. But anyway, let me show you how I do this. Knife, potato. I look and I find my 4 eyes. So this one has a lot of eyes on this one end here. And even though the eyes on this end, there's plenteous, I need to find 4 elsewhere. So I'm pretty happy with 1, 2, 3, and then the 4th here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut. Ooh, that's an eye. I'm not cut in the middle of the eye. You can see when I was over here, I was going to cut in the middle of an eye, and here I'm not going to. And I'm just going to cut this down that line, and it is not directly in half. It's kind of at a cattywampus thing. Now I have 2 halves. Now, these potatoes are a little brown in the center, which is fine. But this half has a bunch of eyes, and this half has a bunch of eyes. You want to make sure you have at least 3 or 4 on each side. I'm now going to place these on my tray, and I'm going to let them dry out. I don't want them all wet because that will cause them to rot faster. And the idea is we don't want rot. Let me show you again. Another potato. This one's a lot smaller. This one, you can see we have a bunch of different eyes here and here, but not a lot on the back side of this. So I'm actually going to take it right here between these two and slice it down. And then I'm going to take it here. This is gonna leave me with a funky cut, and I'll show you just a second. This gives me plenty of margin for this eye and this eye and this eye over here. Not quite as much margin as I'd like for this eye, but it also gives me plenty of margin for some of the eyes on here. It's a little bit wonky of a cut, but it's gonna work. I got these potatoes for 69 cents a pound. I felt like that wasn't too bad of a price. Joseph was like, that's not the best price, but it's not the worst price either. So it's kind of in the middle of the road for price for us. I could buy them in bulk from a company and it would be less, but I did not feel like ordering potatoes because I didn't really know what I wanted. So I ended up getting two types. I ended up getting a red type and then just a basic Yukon Gold. I got Kennebec potatoes last year. Those were actually really good and I enjoyed them. What's good, as you can see, I'm kind of struggling with this one because there's a bunch of eyes on it and I don't want to cut. I want to be able to salvage all of it instead of messing up an eye, which means I'm going to have to do another funky cut, but not too bad, not too funky. So anyway, so last year I did Kennebec potatoes. They were bad, and I thought about getting more Kennebec this year, but then I was like, well, no, I don't know exactly what type of potato I love growing. My favorite potato that I've ever grown was a purple potato. Those were fun to grow because they're just pretty. I love growing pretty things, and I've said this on here before. I grow things just because they're pretty, and not because they're practical sometimes. Yeah, so I enjoy that. Anything that's fun and pretty, I like to try growing. It's something that brings me joy. So anyway, this is how I do it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to plant these potatoes in the ground. I'll cover them with a certain amount of dirt. And then after that, I'm just going to pile either more dirt or straw or spent hay. Spent hay is not the best. I like straw better just because it's lighter weight, doesn't compact down as much. And just keep piling it up as the potato grows up through the ground. And I'll show you that as we're going through it in the summer when things are growing. But for now, I'm just gonna go and cut the rest of these potatoes. I hope you enjoyed learning about potatoes with me and how I cut them for seed potatoes. I look forward to sharing more of my gardening this year with you guys. See you later.